Hello friends, welcome. In this video session, I'm going to share my thoughts about how to use, the Cuspal sublord and the planet sublord in Krishnamurti Paddhati. And what is the significance, the role of Cuspal sublord, and what is the role of planet sublord in KP system. So I've already laid down an example horoscope, and so this is the example. This is actually the Lagna chart, and this is the ascendant, and this is the second house, and this is the 12th house. It is a North Indian style format and goes counterclockwise. But in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the Lagna chart is not used. We use the cusp chart, and and this is the table of the cusp or the 12 houses, and this is the table of planets with a star lord and sublord. And these are the cuspal sublords, and these are the sublords for the planet. So in KP, any question or aspect of a person's life is systematically tackled, and the first thing that we need to find out is whether a particular event is promised at all or not in a particular horoscope. So let's say somebody is asking about marriage, then the very first thing in KP uh, process is to find out whether marriage is promised at all, or somebody is trying to find out if he or she can settle abroad. So the first thing is whether that person will be able to go abroad at all or not. So the first step is to find out whether a particular event is promised at all. And if it is not promised, then for example, if somebody comes and asks about marriage, and if marriage is not promised, so you have to politely, tell your client that marriage is, not promised. We see all the time that few people, or many people are not married at all in their entire, lifespan, or many people are not able to go to a foreign country, or if somebody comes and asks for whether he or she can become a Bollywood film star, so not everybody is going to become. So the first thing is to find out whether that particular thing is promised at all or not. So when we talk about whether an event is promised at all, then we look at the cusp, and most importantly the cuspal sublord. And the this is where the cuspal sublord indicates whether an event is promised at all or not. So let's say if somebody comes and let's say the person to whom this horoscope belongs, and he comes to you and asks about the marriage. So then you have to look at whether marriage is promised at all or not. So in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the rules are universal. It doesn't change according to the horoscope. There are no yogas, and you don't have to get into all these divisional charts and nothing of that sort. So it's all just based on the cusp and the planets. So for marriage, Krishnamurti's rule is that the important houses are 2, 7, and 11, and the denying houses are, or the negative houses are 1, 6, and 10. So what you do is that you look at the uh, seventh. Let me make it seventh. I don't know who uses this Roman, character. It's difficult to find out. So this is the seventh cusp, and the seventh cusp sublord is Rahu. Okay, so the first step is to find out if the marriage is promised or not. So what we do is we look at whether Rahu is connected with 2, 7, or 11. If it is connected, then we say okay, the marriage is promised in this horoscope. If it is connected with 1, 6, and 10, then we say that marriage is not promised. And so Rahu, in the cusp chart, we see that's already in the seventh cusp. So we say, okay, the marriage is, promised in this chart. So the first step is, solved, whether an event is promised at all. And now, if it is promised, if the marriage is going to happen, then you have to find the significator. And then you look at uh, uh, the this chart, with planets and star lord and sublord, and then you try to find out that which are the planets that signify, 2, 7, and 11 houses, and then you look at the dasha and transit, and this is how you predict. So the Cuspal sublord is basically used to find out if a particular event is promised or not, and the planets, the star lord and sublord, are used then to find out the time period, when this is going to happen. So basically, the Mahadasha and Antardasha, when an event is going to happen, need to be worked out, from the planets, this table, the planets table. So now one of the thing, that I want to draw your attention is that the Cuspal sublord has a major yes no, black and white kind of a role in Krishnamurti Paddhati. Is marriage promised? Then you have to look at the Cuspal sublord and say yes or no. If it is no, then obviously, you find ways to tell your clients that's not promised, or he or she is not going to get married throughout the life. And if it is yes, then you proceed. So these Cuspal sublords, become very important in Krishnamurti Paddhati, and they change, very fast. In I guess 5 to 9 minutes, the sublords, will change. So you need to have a very exact, birth time of a horoscope, and then only you can rely on the sublord. For example, if you look at the seventh house and you have Rahu and Rahu is in seventh, so you say, okay, marriage is promised, and then you don't have to, proceed further. This alone is sufficient to say yes and no. But let's say, this horoscope has some a wrong, birth time by 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and instead of Rahu, let's say, the Jupiter is the sublord. Then where is Jupiter is in 12th house, okay, and Jupiter is indicating 2, 11, 12 over here, and then Sun 6, which is not a good house, and then you have 1 and 10 over here. So it's going to create some confusion in your mind whether Jupiter is going to be positive or negative for the marriage. But anyway, the point here is that these sublords, have to be very accurate. I'll give you an example that Krishnamurti has mentioned that if somebody approaches, an astrologer with a question that if whether one is going to go to a jail or not, in that case, the 12th sublord has to be Rahu. So now, and unless and until it is Rahu, yeah, one will not go to a jail. So you can understand that unless and until you have a very precise, birth time, you will not be able to be confidently, making a prediction based on the Cuspal sublord. But this is how the Cuspal sublords are used in the Krishnamurti Paddhati to find out a yes or no, black and white, uh, answer to a question. Only then you have to move ahead. If the answer is yes, then you proceed further and find out the significators and the match it with the dasha, antardasha, and then tally it with the transit, and this is how you predict. Now, another thing I wanted to point out to you is that the uh, now if you look at this horoscope, and if this person asks you about his this belongs to a male, so about his career, so now you have to predict, so this is a lagna chart, and you see that Saturn is strong, but Jupiter is debilitated, and the the Lord of the 10th house, Venus, is not in a very positive, house, and the it's not a horoscope where you can say that this is a very promising, kind of a chart just by looking at, this particular chart. But if you look at the cusp chart, and if you follow the Krishnamurti Paddhati, where Krishnamurti says a planet first gives the result of its star lord, and so a planet first gives the result of a star lord. So if you look at this table, then you would find that Mars is predominantly giving the result of sixth house, and Jupiter is giving the result of sixth house, Saturn is giving the result of sixth house. And not only this, I mean, if you look at this, they are only giving the result of sixth house. This is not diluted. The position of Sun is such in the cusp chart that it's only giving the result of the sixth house, which is a very strong, a positive house in Krishnamurti Paddhati. And if you look at the sublord, they're equally, kind of positive, or they are lending their support to the sixth house, because the 6, 10, and then here also, you have 10 and 1. One is the house of status and recognition. And then again, here you have 2 and 11, which is very good. And so if you look at from the Krishnamurti point of view, then you find that Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, they are very strong. And most importantly, this is what I want to point it out, that in the star lord, they are just giving the result of the sixth house. Sixth house is a very, very positive, house in Krishnamurti Paddhati in terms of success, achievement, and status, and those kind of things. So that, and of course, they need to get this star lord need to get a node, from the sublord, or support from the sublord. So that is what is there in this chart. So in a way, you can say that this chart is really, very powerful from the point of view of a career or a profession. And now, but from the traditional point of view, if you look at this chart, you'll be confused, and you would not be able to find out if this chart belongs to one of the most strongest person, currently, and because this chart belongs to President Obama. But if you look from the Krishnamurti's Paddhati process, then the sun's position and the sixth house and 10th house combination, this does indicate that this chart belongs to a person who's going to rise, spectacularly in his or her career. So, so that's one of the things. And now, lastly, if you look at the dasha, the like I mentioned, this belongs to President Obama, and he became, president in January 2009. So he was going Jupiter Mahadasha and Moon, Antardasha. And Jupiter, if you look at Jupiter, like I mentioned to you, is already, very strong. And but if you look at Moon, the Moon is not strong. So the point that I'm trying to tell you is that if you might have been looking at this chart maybe 10 years ago, and then you might say that Jupiter is strong, and then Mars is also strong. So you might have told Obama that when he runs Jupiter Dasha and Mars Bhukti, then he's going to see a spectacular, rise in his career. But that would have happened, after 2009 when he became the president. So, what I'm trying to say is the whole idea is that sometime when you are working, on the birth chart or the natal chart using Krishnamurti Paddhati, you are not sure about how accurate, the birth time is. So you have to be very cautious in using, the Cuspal sublords. So that's point number one. And then if the time of birth is wrong, and then the dasha period, might not be as accurate as you want that to be. And so instead of saying that Jupiter Moon period, this person would see a spectacular, rise in his career, you might have mentioned that Jupiter Mars. Okay, but that's fine. I mean, it doesn't, really matter, because if President Obama became president in January 2009, and if using Krishnamurti Paddhati, you said that Jupiter and Mars would be a very good period. So you might say maybe March 2009 or April 2009, but that's fine. I don't treat it as something, as a wrong prediction. I would still treat it as a very astounding, prediction. And so that is, all in this video about the Cuspal sublord and about the planet sublord, and how what is their role and significance. And now, if you are using, this the whole Cuspal sublord concept from Krishnamurti is of tremendous, significance. But if you want to see the real magic of these Cuspal sublords, then I would recommend that you go for the, Krishnamurti horary, or the query, horoscope, where you're sure about everything, the time of query and the place and everything. So that way, you get a very accurate chart. At least from that point of view, you have a peace of mind. And at that time, then you can use, these Cuspal sublords and blend it with the planet sublord, and then you can arrive at really, accurate predictions, where you can pinpoint even the dates. So that is all in this session. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.